ओम अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरौ श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीन इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशे तारिणे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 185. So I'll begin with the recitation of the verse. साधयित्वा जातशत्रोः स्वं राज्यं कितवैहृतं घातयित्वा सतो राज्ञः कचस्पर्शक्षतायुषः। Again, साधयित्वा जातशत्रो स्वयं राज्यं कितवैहृतं घातयित्वा सतो राज्ञः कचस्पर्शक्षतायुषः. Synonyms or the word-to-word meanings. Sadhayitva, having executed. Ajata shatro, ajata shatro, or one who has no enemy. Swam rajyam, own kingdom. Kitavaiha, by the clever, Duryodhana and party. Hritam, usurped. Ghata yitva, having killed. Asattaha, the unscrupulous. Rajnaha, of the queens. Kacha, bunch of hair. Sparsha, roughly handled. Kshata, decreased. Ayusha, by the duration of life. Translation. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who had joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In the glorious days, or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. Point number 1. The protection of Brahmanas maintains the institution of Varna and Ashrama, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. 2. The protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food, that is milk, for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain, for understanding higher aims of life. 3. The protection of women maintains the chastity of society by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. 4. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a children by the purificatory process of Garbhadhana Samskara, the beginning of pure life. 5. The protection of old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. This complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden because even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varna Shankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushasana, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. Okay, so Om Gyanatimmirandasya Gyananjanashalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? So, like I said, I did not prepare at all for this. So, I'll try to speak something based on the purport here. So we can see that Srila Prabhupada has given very briefly, he has given he's listed out these five people or five entities who need to be protected. And if we look at it, these five entities kind of covers the full spectrum. I mean, the full everyone in the society. It takes care of the whole society. It's this is the base, and if we go into the details, we'll see that how it protects or maintains the whole society. Also, in the Vedic culture, called as Varnashrama Dharma, or the Varnashrama society. So Prabhupada begins here that his purport with in the glorious days or before the advent of the age of Kalis, the Brahmanas, cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. So a point to be noted here is that the days before the Kali Yuga were glorious days, and all these five entities were given protection, meaning that the days after the age of Kali began, the glorious days have gone, and therefore these five entities are not being given protection. So if we look at it, what is the purpose of this creation? I was thinking about it while just contemplating a little bit. The creation of purpose, as we understand, is that we are we as living entities, doesn't matter whether it is humans or animals or birds, beasts, reptiles, anyone. The reason why we, the living entities, are here is because we are detached. We got detached from our original position as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So originally we were all connected in, not in the sense that we were connected with the Lord in intention. We were connected with the Lord in his service. We were connected with him in a loving way, in a spontaneous way, in a natural way. So that's why it is explained, Srila Prabhupada often explains that our natural position is that of uh, our Swarupa. He calls it as Swarupa. And the perfection of this life is called Swarupa Siddhi. So which is with Krishna and staying with him in the spiritual world. We are not meant to be in this material world. One of the analogies that I like to think is, for example, we are meant to live here on the land, and that is our natural position as human beings. Now, if we want to go and live under the ocean or in the space, for example, there are people who are going and living months and months in the space, or there are also people who are living under the ocean for months and months. But that is an unnatural condition. We can see that we cannot go and live in the space or inside the ocean or water in our natural state. We need to acquire a suitable body. So for example, if we want to go and live under the ocean for 6 months, we need to have a body that is a hard body, which will give us oxygen, or is able to produce oxygen and give it to us. And that body is basically a submarine, a outer covering. And similarly, if we want to go and live in the space, we need to have the spacesuit and a machine around us, a capsule or something that can provide us our natural things. So similarly, our natural position being in the spiritual world, we being the spirit soul, have chosen to come and live in an unnatural state, which is in this material world. And therefore, we must take, and we have taken, a body which is suitable for us to live in this material world, which is made of the material elements: Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Vayu, Kam, Mano, Buddhi. So our body is made up of these 5 elements, gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and also covered with subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego, which lets us stay here. Now, why am I discussing this? Because we are trying to discuss the glorious days before advent of the age of Kali. These 5 entities were given protection. So that kind of made me think that in the previous yugas, the days were glorious, and after the age of Kali, they were not. So what does that actually mean? That means that in the Satyuga, when people were in the Satyuga, they they knew the purpose of life. They understood that they have come to this material world by their own will, but they know that their goal of life is to go back, and therefore they engaged in such services, and that's why it was called Satyuga. And then gradually the Treta Yuga comes, Dwapar Yuga, and then the Kali Yuga. And as we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, the religiosity decreases 1/4 in each of the yugas. So in Satya Yuga, the full religiosity is there. People are very intelligent. They understand everything. Then in Treta Yuga, it decreases by 1/4. So 3/4 remains. They are still they still know the purpose, and there are different means like fires. The sacrifice is the means to go back, and they knew it. They did it. Then comes the Dwapar Yuga, and still Srila Prabhupada is saying that even though it was only half of the religious principles were left, they were still glorious days because they knew the purpose of life, and they were giving protection to these 5 entities. But in the Kali Yuga, only 1/4 remains, and obviously we can see from our practical experience that we don't see the protection of these living or these different entities which constitute the overall society. So the I'm sorry I got disconnected, but while I was talking about the original purpose of this material world or this creation is to go back to home, back to Godhead, which means that we have come in this unnatural state and we have to go back, and that message itself is not clear in this age of Kali, and therefore what to talk about protecting these living entities. So Krishna says I mean, talking about the purpose of creation, he says that the living entities in chapter 15 Bhagavad Gita, 7th verse, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha mana shastriyandriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So let's discuss these 5 entities a little bit in more details. The protection of Brahmanas maintains the institution of Varna and Ashrama, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. So Brahmanas, as we know, are the higher class of the 4 Varnas, or sorry, the 4 ashramas. I keep getting confused. Varnas. So Brahmanas they are supposed to be the teachers and the guides of the society. They guide the other Varnas, meaning that they are the ones who guide the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas and the Shudras. So they engage them according to their psychophysical nature. They teach them, they guide them, all of that. So one of the qualities of Brahmanas is that, or actually there are a few of the qualities mentioned in the 18th chapter, Bhagavad Gita 18.42. Samo damastapa shaucham kshantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. So translation: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So Brahmana means one who knows the Brahma Gyan, or one who possesses the knowledge of Brahman, which is the spiritual. Brahma means spirit. We are all spirit souls. Aham Brahmasmi. So, but we the general population does not have the knowledge of the spirit soul. When we see around us, we can see that you ask around and there is maybe some conception, but more than 99% of the population does not have the concept. So this Brahmana is a class of people who have that knowledge, and therefore they are aware of the purpose of life. They are aware of the purpose of this creation. They are aware of what uh, everyone needs. I mean, they are not in ignorance, and therefore they have this higher duty of guiding and teaching the other classes of people. So they are, in one sense, they are free from bodily conception of life, or at least supposed to, based on this translation in the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna is saying. And therefore they are able to like guide the other principles. And therefore, coming to the first point, the protection of the Brahmanas maintains the institution. So without the Brahminical population, it's just not possible to maintain this institution of Varna and Ashrama. And without maintaining the institution of Varna and Ashrama, how is the population going to understand the purpose of their lives, the purpose of this creation, the purpose of why, what is their ultimate goal? So therefore, makes perfect sense that the Brahmanas be protected. They are very simple in nature. They live a very simple life. They, even though we have discussed this in the past many classes of this Srimad Bhagavatam here at ISKCON Naperville, when we were discussing Ashwatthama's chapter 7 about Ashwatthama and his. So we discussed Ashwatthama is referred to as Brahma Bandhu, and therefore we discussed many times what actual Brahmanas are. And we have heard that Brahmanas have the qualities or capacity and capability to do anything, because if they are able to guide the Kshatriyas, they are able to teach the military science to the Kshatriyas. Why can they not use it? They are able to use it, but they don't, because they know that their dharma or their duty is to teach, and the Kshatriya's dharma or duty is to actually execute, because there must be a differentiation between teaching and execution. As we see, uh, it makes perfect sense even in the uh, current society. We see that there are teachers of different aspects of science and many other things, and the executioners are different. They use that science and use it for the purpose that they want. So Brahmanas, if we don't have Brahmanas, then how can we even guide the society? So Srila Prabhupada very often said that Brahmanas are needed. The Brahmanas are the head of the body. Without the head of the body, we cannot maintain. The head is required. If we cut off our other parts, for example, the hand or finger, or even if the leg is amputated, we can live a life with difficulty, of course, but the life can still go on. But without the head, it's not possible, because head is the one which is coordinating the whole body. The it's all the nervous systems and everything scientifically also is managed by the head or the brain. The head is the one which directs each body part to do what they are supposed to do. So similarly, Brahmanas are absolutely required in the society. If we consider the society as the body, the Brahmanas are the head, and the Kshatriyas are the arms, the Vaishyas are the belly, and Shudras are the legs. And all of them are required for a wholesome maintenance of the body. But in particular, the Brahmanas are absolutely required. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada said that in this age, there are no Brahmanas. And therefore, he, when he created this institution, ISKCON, he very clearly, he focused a lot on creating qualified, not the qualified brahmanas in the sense. He also said that it's not possible to have qualified brahmanas in this age, but qualified meaning like at least be according to the verse of Bhagavad Gita. So they should have the quality of peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. Because brahmanas also, as we know, what is it? Brahmanas, their duty is Patan Patan, Yajan Yajan, Dan Pratigra. So they also do Patan Patan, and we could see that in the, Patan Patan means reading the scriptures and teaching the scriptures. Yajan Yajan. So in the previous ages, in the Satyuga and, even in the Dwapar Yuga, the Brahmanas could do Yajan Yajan, meaning they could perform sacrifices, fire sacrifices, and that were actually fruitful in the sense that we see even up to the end of almost beginning of Kali Yuga or the end of Satya Yuga, we see a Brahmana boy simply cursing a, a saintly king like Maharaj Parikshit, and it took effect. So Brahmanas, there are other duties, but in this age, Srila Prabhupada was very clear that we need Brahmanas, the Brahminical culture or the society, to actually be able to guide. And he also said, to the extent, I don't remember, but I think it was 1%. He said that even if 1% population becomes Krishna conscious, the society will run nicely. So just 1%. So therefore, the importance of protecting the Brahmanas. Next point is the protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food, that is milk, maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. So this is a very, from a scientific perspective, it is a very it is an unknown fact or an unknown thing in the society. As we can see, cows are not being protected. Instead, especially in the last 50 years, we have seen the industrialization of cow killing or slaughter. So earlier, like even before 50, 70 years back, it's not that cows were not killed. Cows have been killed for generations, and even in the previous yugas, there have been some mention. But here in the last 50 years, if we see, it has become a mechanical process, meaning machines have been introduced, and the whole thing is like made a mechanical process, and an industry has been formed. So people are not aware when they eat. They just go to the stores, they go to a market, and they pick something from the shelf, they bring it, cook it, and eat it. They have no idea what is happening behind the scenes. It's become so easy. Even 50, 70 years back, even in the Western culture, if you wanted to eat meat, you had to like go travel miles of many miles, find a place, and actually procure an animal and take them to a certain place. And therefore we see that even they used to eat meat maybe once a month or something like that. It used to be, but now if we see, it's like a regular thing. There are some people I had some colleagues who said that if there's no meat on my plate, I cannot eat. So that's the culture we are living in. And Prabhupada here goes into more like details. He's calling the milk as a miraculous form of food. Why is it miraculous? Because milk is necessary to maintain the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. So as we see, we have been discussing mostly why have we I've been discussing this purpose of creation and what the purpose of human life is. And here it's directly related. Prabhupada is saying that if we have finer tissues in our brain, then we can understand the higher aims of life, which means that to understand the goal of life or what the ultimate purpose of life is, we need to have a good brain, a sharp and juicy brain, not juicy in the other sense, but in the sense that it's able to think, it's able to uh, process. Of course, we know thinking is a function of mind, but mind uses the brain, and therefore brain is really important to understand. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that, what is that? Uh, Je Krishna bhoje sei bado chatur. So it has a very deep meaning. So meaning of that is that one who worships Krishna is very intelligent, and that's I mean, it's just one small sentence, but if we go into details, it's extremely like what do we say? Um, at a deeper level, we can understand why is such a person intelligent, because we see, I mean, it makes sense. We read Bhagavad Gita, we read Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's not that we are following the Bhagavad Gita in a sentimental way, in a just okay brainwashing thing. We Prabhupada used to say that understand Bhagavad Gita critically. If you understand Bhagavad Gita critically, then you will be able to actually progress, apply it in life, and you will see the purpose and how it all makes sense. So to be able to understand and be able to process it and apply it, we need proper and sharp brain. And for that, milk is required. Now, from a science perspective, we, at least not yet, we don't know how milk actually produces a sharper brain that is fit for understanding the spiritual teachings or the understanding the higher aims of life. But everything mentioned in the Vedic scriptures, we see that gradually science is getting to it, and at some point being able to conclude or agree with what the Vedic scriptures say. Moving on to the next point, point number 3, the protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. So this has been this point has been discussed in the Bhagavad Gita also, in the first and mostly in the first chapter, where Arjuna is giving various different reasons. Primarily, he gives 5 different reasons for not fighting, and he's basing it on the scriptures. It's not something like out of his own. And one of them is that he says that because of this war, Varna Shankara will be produced. Varna Shankara means uh, children born from unchaste families, or or women who have been not given proper protection. They have not. When we say protection, means like they don't know. They are not guided properly. They don't know the purpose of life. They don't know how to live a proper upbringing for the children, etc., etc. So anything and everything requires training and guidance, and therefore women play a very, very important role in the society, because even though we understand that from a spiritual perspective, from a spirit soul perspective, we are all prakriti, and there's only one Purusha, which is Krishna. However, within this society also there are different categories. So the same spirit soul can take birth as either a man or a woman, and based on the body, they have different functions. It nobody can deny. Even if we accept, or even if we take this so-called freedom that is being propagated, which means that everyone, there is no distinction. However, nobody can deny that there are physical distinctions, there are psychological distinctions which distinguish a man from woman. And therefore, we see that women have the capability to give birth, to have children, and they are naturally very, how do I say, they are naturally very, uh, they have this quality of bringing children. They have the natural love for their children. That's what I was trying to get. So even Srila Prabhupada a lot of times said that he compared, and something came to my mind is that the love for a mother, the love, the love a mother has for her child is the closest that we can find in the material world, that is a representative of the true spiritual love, the love that we, the prema, or the love that we have, which means that it's a spontaneous love. A mother's love for her child is spontaneous, meaning like it's just there naturally. And therefore women have to be protected, to be able to, so they have the proper guidance, they know how to bring up their children in a proper way, so that the children are also guided properly. Because in a Vedic culture, the man is out doing his job, working whatever according to his varna, and the woman is mostly maintaining. However, in the current society, we agree that both the man and woman, they both need to be properly guided. I mean, not just now, it's always there. They both need to be guided. But in general, they both need to be guided, and they are both taking care of children, and they are both responsible. It was always there, but the responsibility is more on the mother, on the women. So that's the maintaining the women part. And by the way, this point is so important, protection of women. If we as a Vedic society, if we knew or understood this, then we will not be having this so many issues that we see all over the world. Specifically in India, there have been like so many cases because of an improper society, or we actually see the Varna Shankar society, and instead of respecting women, women are exploited and taken advantage of. So if we had this society of and proper guidance, we would be much better off. I mean, at a base level, we would be uh, we would understand what's that, why women need to be protected. And especially that's why, according to the Vedic culture, and Srila Prabhupada brought it back, is that all women except your wife needs to be looked up as a mother, or and therefore that Mataji was introduced. It was not. It was already always there in the Vedic society, and Srila Prabhupada often said that this is in India, the Bahenji is a new concept that they have brought up, meaning sister, but actually it is Mataji, or mother. Point number 4. The protection of children gives human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a begetting a child by the purificatory process of Garbhadhana Samskara, the beginning of pure life. So one as I'm talking, one point that strikes me is that how all these five entities are also interconnected, or they are interrelated. So to perform, for example, to perform a Garbhadhana Samskara, which means that even before thinking of bringing a child into this world, even before the sexual union of the mother and the spouses, the mother and the father, or the husband and the wife, they plan it. They there is this different samskaras are there, and this is one of the samskara which they perform. The sacrifices are performed, and the intention, what is the intention is to bring or invite a soul, so that we as mother and father, or husband and wife, when we become mother and father, we can be instrumental in raising the child, so that the child understands the purpose of life, and the child understands or is guided properly, and inviting a soul which is receptive of this, or help us to bring such a child. So that is the consciousness, that is the intention of the mother and father, the to be mother and father. It's very different from today's society. Nobody is thinking like that, not at all. Like, most of us began to understand these things after having our children, and we see what the consciousness was, and it's just as soon as you get married, there is pressure, and you, okay, when are you having? No issue yet, no this, no that. And so it's kind of one thing that comes to my mind is puna puna charvita charvananam. So yeah, because I did it, because everyone is doing, you also do it, and get it done. Anyway, so children are to be protected because they are the future. They will in future, they will grow up, they will become citizens of this society, and if they are not protected, if they are not guided, then how can we expect to have a good society? And therefore, protection so this protection to the children is again a little bit different in the sense that it's mentioned here. Generally, when we think of protection, we think of like, okay, protect the children from the pervert minded people, or people that are there to take advantage of the children. So these are the protection that we talk about. Those protection are absolutely necessary, but the protection that is being um, mentioned here is not just that protection that is already included in the protection, but the protection means even more than that, beyond that, which means that they understand the purpose of life. They are guided in such a way. So what Prabhupada says here is that to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. That's the essence. So it's a form of life where it has a chance to prepare the way of liberty from this material bondage, which is the ultimate goal. And the last and the fifth point, protection of the old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. So old age, janma mritu, jara, vyadi. Jara is old age, yes. So we all go through this birth, death, old age, and disease. And old age is a stage where people, again, I'm talking from my own contemplation, on thinking as I speak, uh, is the most is a very vulnerable stage of life, in the sense that when we are children, the parents are naturally there to for us. They are affectionate and all that. But when we become old, we are in the protection of the society, of others. In a way, the older people are dependent either on the society or on the children. And if we see the Vedic culture was that you take care of your old parents. And parents in general, both, sorry, my mind was going into another direction, but the children were responsible to take care of their parents in their old age. But now, because we, or the society in the modern or in the current age, they refuse to do that. Therefore, the governments, and they have come up with different schemes or means to protect them. And that is the reason why we have this different schemes of social security, and the old age homes, and all those are there out there. And why are these there? Because the older people, they are not protected, and therefore the government has taken the responsibility. And when that happens, which means that the children don't take the responsibility of maintaining or taking care of their older parents, what happens is, I mean, it's circumventing the original problem, because somebody is not doing their responsibilities. It's going on somebody else, and therefore that is not a perfect system. And we can see that there are problems with the social security system. For example, here the social security system is there, and it is a well-known fact that this pool of money or resources is depleting very fast, and it's going to dry up soon at some particular. In fact, there are some calculations, I don't know, but like probably our children, or even some of us, when we retire, we may not get the full benefits of social security, because there is no money. Not whatever is being put in, is more than that is being taken out to maintain this older people. Or so therefore the protection of old men is very required. I was just talking from a modern perspective, but again, here the purpose is to prepare them for a better life after that. In general, like Prahlad Maharaj says, that the education begins from the very beginning, Kaumarat, so from the Kaumara stage itself. But in general, older people have lived their lives in a practical way. If you think they have lived their lives, or rather, not in a practical way, but for the general population, if we see, they have a lot of experience, and there is some realization which is coming to them, that what's there, is this it? Have we lived our lives? Is what's next? So those type of questions start coming, and it's natural. Is the youth will not get those, because their senses are very strong, and they are like enjoying their world. They have no time to think about these, unless obviously they have been guided properly. And that's how, again, the connection with the protection for children comes in, or protection of women comes in, so that the mothers are guiding them properly. But unless that happens, there is no chance in their youth. And the married life, married life is gone, struggling and bringing up the family, caring for the family. Old age is when there is time. They have their duties and responsibilities are over, and they start thinking. So therefore, that's another last chance, and therefore it's so important to give protection. So that's all for the 5 points, and I made it. I was not sure how I will, but I think I'll just quickly read the last part of the paragraph and then stop and open up for discussion. So this complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden because even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. Interesting. So it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam that the duration of life will gradually go down to 20-25 years. 25 years will be the old man or ready to die. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women becomes unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varna Shankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushashan, a brother of Duryodhan, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. And this again, these stringent laws are there for the main purpose, which is going back to home, back to Godhead, which is the main purpose of the living entities. Everything is designed in such a way that it facilitates the purpose of the living entities. Okay, so I'll stop here and I open up, I invite discussions if there are any.
Hare Krishna, Pratibahu Prabhu. This is Kalpataru. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept mine too. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you for the wonderful class. I know you mentioned it was you were unprepared, but it sounded so much structured. I learned a lot, and thank you for making us understand all the different entities and giving the perspective both modern and the traditional, and then also looking at how Srila Prabhupada, devotee way of looking at it. And one point struck, like I was struggling while reading preparing for the NOD class, spontaneous. So you gave like example very nicely of like a mother and a child, how spontaneous um, love mother has. It's so natural. You don't have to create it. It's very natural. So yeah, it will help me for the exam. So thank you so much. But yeah, wonderful class. Just wanted to express my appreciation for the class today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. That was I just repeated that example, but that's an example that Srila Prabhupada gives often, and that's what I quoted.
Yeah, wonderful.
And it makes sense actually, practically also we see it.
Yes. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just want to reiterate what Mataji said. I mean, the class was so systematic, as if you prepared and structured into 5 topics, and you were able to, I mean, very detailed, not getting out of each of the topics. You are able to, stick to that. It was so nice, as if you were prepared so long and then put those points. I felt like that. So it was so good, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your comments. I know that it was not well prepared and it could have been done better, but thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Just on the same lines as other devotees, it's very wonderful to hear. Lingaraj Prabhu initially asked me to speak on this verse. I'm like, each one can be spoken for days together. How can we, go through the flow and cover it? It's very nice to hear from you. I'm glad you spoke on this. One particular thing I'm really appreciating, one thing in a sense, Prabhupada bringing this whole thing. We are reading chapters 17 and 18 in the first canto in our daily Srimad Bhagavatam reading. It's bringing so much of that awareness and need for this protection aspect and to understand this nature of Kali. So my appreciation and gratitude for Srila Prabhupada is increasing so much with this. Particularly, Prabhu, as you're emphasizing on that protection of women, I was thinking in the name of freedom and equality, independence, we are going so much away and actually causing so much problem to our own selves. The first time when I heard in this Bhagavad Gita 140, the women are less intelligent, I was like, what do you mean? It was quite a thing for me. I was kind of a feminist before, like started hearing Srila Prabhupada's teachings. But it brought so much of that, completely different perspective, hearing from Srila Prabhupada and how it's so essential, the protection, not for somebody else to show the, superiority, like for man to feel superior that I'm protecting somebody, but it's actually for we women, I'm just speaking as a woman here, how much it's important for us to keep our sanity and keep going with our things. So just some appreciation coming from. Thank you so much again.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes, absolutely.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept mine too. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is, as other devotees also mentioned, this is more like a very structured class, and the points which you covered, quoting Srila Prabhupada, those are very interesting and very good to revise and refocus upon, especially when you spoke about the 5 classes who have to be protected as per the Srila Prabhupada's purport. This is actually many places Prabhupada mentions this is Vedic life protection of these 5 classes. And again we see that in Kali Yuga these 5 classes are being exploited for selfish purposes. And your class actually highlighted and brought back kind of relevance to what we actually do, and see how we can actually practice these things in our society at large and in our personal lives as well, Prabhu. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, it's 8:02. So if there's no other discussion, we can stop here. Thank you very much, devotees. So it's a special day today. Today evening, Sri Radha Shyam Sundar are going to come on the altar, and from tomorrow the festivities begin. So let's all try to come together and serve them. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.